Alright, so this is the story of Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was a prophet who preached around the same time as the books of Jeremiah and Daniel were going on. When the second time where the Babylonians came and took people from Jerusalem, Ezekiel was one of those people. And so God came to Ezekiel while he was living among the exiles by the Kibar River. And he was the son of a priest, and he was 30 years old when he first heard the Lord. And God often called Ezekiel Son of Man when talking to him. It's a name that God would refer to him with, and it's a name that Jesus then took as his own. Now God talked to him through visions and gave him a bunch of weird visuals to explain what it was God wanted him to know.
There's a problem. I can't see this stuff as well. So I can see every dot.
It's okay.
And it says visions from God, right?
It says visions from God.
Because we can't really see it without color.
Alright. Now the first time that God came to Ezekiel, he came to him in a giant thundercloud. And there was lightning all around, and Ezekiel had visions of 4 cherubim, which are a type of angel, and they were above them sat God on a throne of blue stone, and Ezekiel fell face down as God began to speak. And God said to him, I am sending you to the Israelites, a rebellious nation. Tell them what I say, and whether they listen or not, they will know a prophet has been among them. And then he tells them to eat what he gives them. And God gives Ezekiel a scroll, and Ezekiel eats the scroll, and it's a scroll of lament, which means a scroll of sadness and of bad news. And so Ezekiel eats it, and it tasted sweet as honey, which was kind of confusing to Ezekiel why it would be. Now, then God gave him some more instructions, and he said that he was supposed to tell the people who were in exile what was about to happen. And he said, okay, take a brick and write the word Jerusalem on it. Then you're going to build a siege around the brick. You're going to build up like there's armies surrounding it. And then you are to lie on your left side, bound, so you cannot roll over. And you will lay there for 390 days, as Israel has been in rebellion for that many years. Then you will lie on your right side for 40 days, as Judah has been in rebellion. Then, this is the part where it gets really gross. He said you are to eat bread that has been cooked over dung.
Yuck.
Yes, yuck, because dung is poop.
Ew.
And you're only to drink a small amount of water as if you've been besieged. So he's trying to see what it's like for the people who are going to be in Jerusalem during this final siege. And then God comes to Ezekiel again and says, okay, take a sharp sword and shave your hair and your beard. And that's a sign of dishonor among the Israelites at this time. It's considered a terrible thing for your hair to be, for your head to be shaved and your beard to be cut off. And says, then divide your hair into thirds. 1/3 you will burn in the fire at the center of the city. 1/3 you will strike with the sword. And the last you will scatter on the wind. And thus will I do to Jerusalem who has rebelled against me. They will be besieged, and they will be hungry and thirsty as stores run out. And then at the end, 1/3 of them will die by famine or pestilence, 1/3 by the sword, and 1/3 will be scattered to the nations, and thus is my wrath spent. Now another time God came to Ezekiel and he said, Ezekiel was taken in spirit to Jerusalem, and God said, Son of man, do you see what they are doing in my sanctuary? And Ezekiel was taken to the temple, and he saw the elders of the house of Israel, and they were worshiping images carved on the walls, images of beasts and creeping things, and they were doing horrible things in the temple, things that God had told them never to do. And they were saying, the Lord does not see us, because he has abandoned the land. God said, Son of man, do you see this? They have filled the land with violence. And they are in my very sanctuary, and they worship others. And God was grieved by this because he knew this is not how he wanted things. And now the Lord called out with a loud voice, summoning his angels to one carrying a writing case. He commanded, go through the city on any that are grieving over the sins of the city. Write a mark on their foreheads. And to the rest of the angels carrying swords he commanded, "Go into the city and kill without mercy any who do not bear the mark." Just as when the Exodus happened and the Passover happened, God passed his judgment over those who were covered by the blood of the Lamb, so too those who were covered by the mark that the angels gave were saved. And when this was done, God's glory left the temple. God thought that the place, that his dwelling place on earth, was too desecrated. It was too horrible for him to be able to use it, for him to be able to stay. And again, the Lord came to Ezekiel about those remaining in Jerusalem. He said, "They sit behind their walls and they say they are safe. They believe that nothing can happen to them, but I will pull them from the city and on the borders of Israel, and they will face judgment." And Ezekiel fell on his face, saying, "God, will you destroy that final remnant of Israel?" And God answers, "Though I have scattered the people far from the land I promised Abraham, I will bring you back to the land of Israel again. I will put a new spirit in them, and then they will follow my laws and be my people, and I will be their God. And you will know I have not done this without cause." Now, Son of man, prophesy the words I will give you. It says, "Turn your face against these countries." And God, when I'm teaching with my Sunday school class, on the back I've written about 10 different verses that are for different countries that have fought against Israel. It's the Edomites, the Philistines, Egypt, Tyre, Syria, Babylon. Actually, Babylon and Assyria I don't think are actually listed there. But it's a whole list of countries that have come in and they have mocked Israel and they have said, "Oh, your God is dead. Your God does nothing." And instead, God comes to Ezekiel and he says, "Turn your face against those who hate you, and I will punish them for what they did to Israel. And they will be humbled, never to rule over the nations, and never to be a source of faith for Israel." Because Israel over and over again had turned to those bigger nations and said, "We'll trust you. It's obviously you who's going to keep us safe." But God wanted them to learn that it was not. Now, all of these prophecies we've talked about so far have come true. But there are parts of Ezekiel that have not come true, and we're starting to get into them. And they didn't come true for over 2,000 years. And there's a couple of prophecies that did come true after
World War II.
Yes. "Now I have made you a watchman for Israel. Warn them of what is coming. Say to them, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live. Turn. The righteousness of a man will not save him when he turns to evil."
Excuse me.
Yes?
On the camera, your face is looking a little red.
Okay. I can't really do anything about that. "Neither will the wickedness of man condemn him when he turns from it." Turn. And God promises a new king is coming, and all hope is not lost. And someday he will gather his people to him again. And that new king came for the first time when Jesus came and was born, lived a perfect life, and died on the cross and was raised again 3 days later. That was the first time we saw that king. But he didn't come to rule and reign then. He came as the suffering servant then. And so we saw a partial fulfillment of that prophecy. And we saw more of that fulfillment come true after World War II when the nation of Israel was founded again.
That was not expected.
God then took Ezekiel to a valley filled with bones. And he said, "Son of man, can these bones live again? Can we work and then have this become real again?" And he said, "Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." And the bones came together, bone to bone, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them all. And God said, "Oh, my people, I am going to open your graves and bring you back to the land of Israel, and you will know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit into you, and you will live. Settle in your own land, and you will no longer be two nations, but one nation under one king." And again, like I said, part of this prophecy came true after World War II, when they became one nation again. But the rest of it hasn't come true yet. We haven't seen dry bones rise up and become an army, or at least nothing that any biblical scholars have agreed is what happened. So, now the final part of Ezekiel says, I will bring many nations against Israel, and they plan on plundering my people and their wealth. I will destroy Israel's enemies, and all will tremble in my presence. I will make myself known in the sight of many nations that I am the Lord. And the nations will know that the people of Israel went into exile for their sin, and I dealt with their offenses. I will then bring them back from captivity. Will have confession. I will forget their shame, and no longer will I hide my face from them. And the Lord gave Ezekiel his plan for Israel, for a new city and a new temple, and for the division of the land. And when all this is accomplished, the glory of the Lord will return to his sanctuary, and the name of the city will forever be, the Lord is there.
Stop.
And you can stop.